And greetings from paradise, and welcome everyone as we kick off the 2019 Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series from El Nido, the Palawan Island on the Philippines. A remote and scenic location lined with white sandy beaches, jungle mountains, beautiful seascapes, and clear emerald waters as El Nido. A first-time location for the World Series is ready to host Cliff Diving's Elite and stop number one of the competitive season. I'm Trace Worthington alongside Joey Zuber, back with you for another thrilling season of Red Bull Cliff Diving, and we are looking forward to it. What a beautiful setting. We have an incredible lineup of stops this season, 7 in total, 7 different countries, 3 new locations. Today, here in the Philippines, will mark the 2019 World Series opener and one of the 3 new locations. Dunleary in Ireland will be stop number 2 after here in the beautiful Philippines. Another new location. And then followed by a diver and fan favorite, Polignano Amare, Italy. San Miguel and the Azores of Portugal will host the next stop, followed by Beirut, Lebanon. And stop number 6, we return to Mostar and Bosnia-Herzegovina. And then the season finale wraps up in Bilbao, Spain. And Red Bull Cliff Diving expert Joey Zuber is next to me. An exciting season on tap, my friend. New faces, new dives mixed with veteran experience, providing a high density of potential winners, Joey.
That's right. My prediction is that we'll see a greater variety of athletes that can stand on the podium, and that spans across the men's and the women's field. And it's interesting, we're seeing a lot of new dives and very difficult dives at the very first stop here in Philippines. Normally the divers play it safe, but they've done a lot of pre-season training and they're ready and coming out of the gates hot.
Look at this beautiful location, and we are about to get started. But first, you ask, what is Red Bull Cliff Diving? Well, we break it down right here.
This is not a sport for the faint-hearted. Divers take off from up to 27 meters or 90 feet, the same as an 8-story building. Performing a complex series of twists and somersaults, they are scored by 5 international judges. In just 3 seconds in the air, the divers can reach speeds of up to 85 kilometers per hour or 53 miles per hour. Scores are added across 2 days of competition to give an overall total. To earn these scores, divers must perform 4 different dives of varying degrees of difficulty.
Sensational! This is just insane.
I'm in the bottom! The male and female divers with the highest total scores win the event.
I'm really happy.
And after all 7 events around the world have been completed, the divers with the most series points will be awarded the King Karkili Trophy as the 2019 World Series champion. This is Red Bull Cliff Diving.
And there you have it. And Joey, you know, it is a beautiful location. However, it is a little bit challenging for the world's best divers.
It is. I mean, the athletes have been saying they're quite tired because in the morning they've been diving from the cliff face, so that involves a lot of climbing, and that's mentally challenging. You really need to spend a lot of time concentrating on that way up to the top. It's a daunting task. And then, of course, you have to dive from the cliff face. And then in the afternoons, they've been doing their diving practice from the platform. So it's a long, challenging day preparing for the competition.
And when you think cliff diving, you think the ocean, sunshine, spectacular athleticism, but mostly you think paradise. And here in El Nido, the word paradise is a whole new level for these divers. Watch this.
This does feel like paradise.
It's just breathtaking. And to be in a spot like this in our sport where you can feel so connected to the earth and the cliff and diving in the seas here, it's just such an awesome experience.
We were impressed with the color of the water, with all the cliffs.
This place is beautiful. I couldn't wish for a better first stop of the season.
I was blown away, and it was
something incredible. I mean, what's not to love about island life?
You know, this is what you should think about when you think about cliff diving. Just beautiful water, good weather, nice rocks.
In a lot of interviews, we get asked, what's your favorite location? And I've always struggled to answer that question because I love all the locations for their own reason, and not one has ever really stood out to me the most, but this one has now, like, by far, by a landslide, answered that question for me.
To start off the tour in the Philippines, this is what we do it for.
An absolute stunning location here in El Nido. And Joey, the first 2 rounds of 4 took place yesterday off the raw and sharp limestone cliffs in the small lagoon, which gave you a good indicator on how the women are diving as we lead into this final round.
So we have the small lagoon, which is a different location from where they're diving from the platform. On the other side, we're seeing Rhiannon Iffland here, the 3-time Rebel Cliff Diving World Series champion, showing off her style. Great scores from the judges, managing the conditions very well. So she is really having to push a long way from the cliff face. And as we were saying earlier, it's a very challenging process to climb the cliff, but look at that view.
Yeah.
Very scary. Yana Nestriava, smooth as silk, slicing away through the water. Very important, like I said before, you need to push far enough away from the edge of the cliff face, and that changes the dynamic of the dive. Xanthia Panisi, and she comes from a Filipino background, the only cliff diving athlete to do so, so she wants to do her fans and family proud, diving here in El Nido, Philippines. What a picturesque, an absolute perfect cliff diving location, in my opinion.
It is serene, it is surreal. The divers doing a great job yesterday in the small lagoon. And then we shift over to the big lagoon for the 3rd round and final dive, which is coming up shortly. And that is a view coming into the big lagoon. Again, absolutely picturesque with the large cliffs, limestone, and the blue emerald waters. The judges right there. Head judge Claudio DeMiro leads the way. Anka Piper is here, and Antonio Martinez of Mexico. Julian Lines, the 3-time Olympic judge, is here. And then Steve Foley, he's a character. From Australia.
He was my diving, he was my diving coach back in Australia. He knows how to crack a joke.
5 judges. Beautiful conditions, 27 degrees Celsius and 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Both the same in the water, too, with 28 degrees, a little bit warmer in the water of 28 degrees and 82. So warm conditions, hot outside. It is sunny. The seawater, so it's a little bit softer. Joey and I will get into that in just a little bit as the competitors get ready for their 4th and final round of diving. We'll start off with the women, and here is the start list, and it is reverse order. So after 3 rounds of diving, it is the lowest score that will run first, leading into the highest score and highest qualifier running last. So Ellie Smart of the United States will kick things off. A strong diver in Lisanne Richard will run number 5. Ginger Huber, who had a great day yesterday, is in the mix. And then you have Jimenez, who is 2nd last season. The overall champion 3 times in a row, Rhiannon Iffland, running number 7, a little bit uncharacteristic. And we talk about some of the new names. Nestiarava with a 2:23.80. And Jessica McCauley, the Brit, leads the way, the top qualifier coming into this women's 4th and final round. And Joey, look at that. We talk about the conditions. We talk about just the route getting to the top of this platform. It has been a long and arduous process.
It has not much space to prepare on the end of the platform.
And of course, before we get to our first diver, let's take a look at the environment. Ellie Smart, she was traveling around the world for their sport of cliff diving and kept noticing the same problem every location, plastic pollution. And her and blogger Jackson Groves, they play a big role in their mission, which is to prevent plastic pollution in our world's bodies of water and inspire others to take action through the art of cliff diving. It's called the Clean Cliffs Project. Chris Kalanis and Mikhail Navratil, Jessica McCauley, all part of the team supporting this wonderful cause. Joey, we haven't noticed any bags of litter in this beautiful area of El Nido.
They've done a remarkable job policing that. And in fact, there's a policy here, no plastic bottles to be used whatsoever. So we commend the efforts of the local government to protect the environment here in El Nido, Palawan.
No question about it. So new permanent diver this season, based on her solid performance last November at the FINA High Diving World Cup, is Ellie Smart, who we just saw showing us an example of that Clean Cliffs project. Very solid diver, Joey. What does she have in store here for the fourth and final round? She runs first. She's got a lot of work to do with her scores.
Yeah, she's didn't dive so well in the previous round, so front 2 somersaults with 2.5 twists in the free position. So she has to put everything that happened in the past behind her and try to perform as well as possible for the fourth and final round. So 4 dives in total for the athletes.
And they're all added up together. You see the 3 scores leading into this round that she has, totaling 130.90. So we'll need something large, something big, something difficult here in this optional round dive. Safety divers down below, making sure everything's cool and safe. They'll splash a little water, Joey. That's for depth perception, just so you can see that water because it is so clear.
We're set and ready.
She goes the first diver and pretty much nails that, Joey. A little bit of a splash going backwards on that dive. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I think that's a good way to redeem yourself with that particular dive. Actually, she dove very well last year. There was a FINA High Diving World Cup, and she managed to take her first podium in 3rd place. So we know she's capable of great things. She's just finding her way and getting back into the rhythm. So it's been a while since some of these athletes have done some cliff diving. So she's pushed the dive a little bit too far out and made the rotational speed quite slow, making it difficult to finish the end of the dive.
5 judges, the high and the low are tossed out. Then the remaining 3 are multiplied by the degree of difficulty. In this case, 49 points, not a high score and not the score that Ellie Smart wanted. Grand total of 179.90. And you see the limestone cliff face right there, Joey, and look at the route up, ladders and everything going on. And here's Antonia Vishivanova.
See her visualizing.
Ukraine. The wild card diver. Explain the difference between wild card and permanent diver.
So permanent World Series diver will compete in all 7 stops this year. So the wild cards are given a chance. And if they dive well, they have the opportunity to perform or to compete in additional competitions based upon their performance.
We saw that with Ellie Smart. Our last competitor earned a permanent diver position for this 2019 season.
Oh, so high. Look at this shot.
The women's platform, 21 meters off of the water, 70 feet. Here she goes for her 4th and final dive. She nails it.
Antonina Vishivanova with the triple half pike, redeeming herself after the 3rd round dive. And she actually resides in Shenzhen, China. Very intelligent lady. Actually is fluent in Mandarin Chinese. So she grew up in Shenzhen, can speak, read and write Chinese, but the most important thing we're talking about here today is cliff diving. And she's got beautiful form in the air. Look at the pointed toes and coming through the water with a more or less vertical position. So that's what the judges are looking for, the aesthetics of the dive. They're not judging the degree of difficulty. Scores.
The 21-year-old of Ukraine, she'll keep 3 7s on that. So the grand total is 208.65. That'll put her into 5th. Many divers yet to go here in this women's 4th and final round. 9 women divers in total. And there's Greg Louganis, two-time Olympic gold medalist, legendary, total icon. He is our sport director here at the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series, making sure everything is safe and sound. Greg, they're chilling out on the platform, looking down and making sure things are safe. Xanthia Panisi now, the wild card diver, 20 years old. You mentioned Filipino and Australian. So it comes from a Filipino descent, her mother anyway. Here she goes on this fourth and final dive. Nice and easy, smooth in the air. A little bit of a mistake on that landing, Joey. A bit of a splash. Now to the average viewer, the splash means everything to them. So break down the degree of difficulty in addition to the splash.
Yeah, she's decided to take the dive a little easier, doing something a little simpler. But what the judges really look for is that vertical line. So when you're off that vertical line or past the line, so she's landed over. So this is an over rotation. And as a result of the angle of the body, you can see the splash kicking back there. So she does want to do a more difficult dive, and we don't blame her for trying to play it safe, making sure she gets the eye and the zone back into line to make sure you can cliff dive properly, and then later on the season you can push the degree of difficulty.
The wild card diver in her third career World Series performance with a grand total of 209.30. And Joey, as you see the pace going on right now and what's happening here at the top of the women's final round, well, first of all, let's look at the extreme route just to get to the platform right here.
That's Rhiannon Iffland. As we said earlier, the 3 times Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series winner, so she is a force to be reckoned with.
So Ginger Huber had a great dive yesterday, putting her in the top 3, and then her third round dive didn't go quite her way. And Ginger Huber, 44 years old. Here she goes. And hits the landing on that. The fellow American right there, Andy Jones, we'll see him in a bit. Sergio Guzman, he's clapping. He likes it. What do you think, Joey?
So Ginger Huber, without a doubt, one of the most experienced cliff divers on the planet. As a matter of fact, I really enjoyed watching her off the cliff round dive, flying front, but as we were saying before, this is the 4th and final round. We've got to push it. You've got to see how many somersaults and twists you can do. So this is a front triple somersault in the pike position. There's that Barani at the end of the dive, the trampoline maneuver used to adjust for the landing. Incidentally, the athletes have to land feet first due to the incredible speed, 71 kilometers per hour. Any part of the body that's out of line, believe you me, you feel it. Tough impact.
The most senior female diver on the World Series. Again, 5 judges, the high and the low are tossed out. The remaining 3 multiplied by the degree of difficulty. You add all 4 scores together from all 4 rounds. And Ginger Huber of the United States with a score of 249.30. Lisanne Richard had a tough day yesterday, Joey. What happened?
So Lisanne took the entire season off in 2017 with a neck injury, and she was a little loose in practice. She rattled her neck a little bit, and it was
questionable today.
It was questionable whether she would be able to compete. So luckily she woke up feeling better. Now she's marking out her running takeoff, her running approach to give her more power, more rotational speed. Time to focus.
The mother of 3 to pull into the lead needs 41 points. Very doable for the experienced diver. Lisanne Richard, look at that after a tough day yesterday. Absolutely nails that landing.
Wow, wow, wow. That is what she's known for.
Brilliant.
A disappearing act into these absolutely crystal clear waters. Lisanne Richard will impress the judges with that particular dive. And considering she was quite badly injured yesterday, I can't believe what she's done with this particular dive. Twist at the beginning, pike in the middle. Watch this. Pow. Nothing.
Wow.
Watch how she runs to the end, throws as hard as she can to generate that rotational speed. She was doing a training camp in China, and she was having some troubles with this particular dive. It looks like she's overcome that. And expecting good scores. There we go.
Huge score on that, Joey. 101.40 for Lisanne Richard and 309.70. That is a giant lead for the strong Canadian diver. So Lisanne Richard now the score to beat of 3:09.70 as we look at a beautiful overhead shot of the lagoon. The men's platform stands atop the women's. The men's at 21 meters, 90 feet. The women's 21 meters and 70 feet off of the water. Next competitor is Adi Jimenez as Richard on top of the leaderboard with 3:09. 2018 was her best season of competition ever, Joey, and she continues to improve in this sport. Oh, a little bit short there, Joey, on that landing. Not where she probably wanted to be on that fourth and final dive.
It's one of her signature dives. Actually, the back triple pike, I mean, the form in the air was brilliant. When we look at the replay, we can analyze what happened on the landing. Actually, it didn't look too bad in terms of whether it was vertical or not. I'm going to show you something in a second. I suspect that she was slightly casted. So there's the pike, counting somersaults, 2 there in the beginning, kicking out nicely, floating around for the dive. And look, she was more or less up and down,
right
but
there.
It looks like she just wasn't all that tight through the water. So you need to make sure you maintain tension. But I cannot fault the actual form in the air. And actually, it was still pretty much vertical. Just unlucky it kicked up a lot of splash. So let's see how the judges look at it.
Now we're getting picky here. 3-second free fall, 85 kilometers per hour at 53 miles per hour. Mistakes are tend to happen in this sport. 292 for Jimenez, the runner-up in the 2018 season, almost won the King Kaikili Trophy, but Rhiannon Iffland, being Rhiannon Iffland, pulled off a great last stop in Polignano Amare, Italy in 2018 and took home the trophy for the 3rd season in a row. So Richard now still on top of the leaderboard, the Canadian with a 3:09.70. Adi Jimenez, who you just watched, 2:92.55. Ginger Huber of the United States currently in 3rd. Some big names yet to dive, including Rhiannon Iffland, 3-time Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series champion, hoping to earn her 4th King Kaikili Trophy here in 2019. Why is she such a strong competitor, Joey?
We'll explain that after the dive.
She's going quick. And a brilliant dive by the champion, Rhiannon Iffland. Sensational.
Superb stuff, superb diving. As we were talking before, why is she so good? Basically, she comes from a trampolining and a diving background, puts the two together, and she is the complete cliff diver. So in trampolining, they use this feet-first landing, of course, and massive scores for the judges. 3 9.5s, 2 9s.
That's how you get it done, and that is how you get on top of the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series podium at stop number 1.
Great takeoff. Form in the air was wonderful. Watch the last part of the dive here. This, once again, is called the Barani. So she's done that thousands and thousands of times before. And with that experience and those repetitions, it's paid dividends to make her a cliff diving champion. Well done.
She likes it, the Aussie. Diving well here early season. 7 total stops this season. A lot of work to do, but this is how you kick things off. 106.40 on that 4th and final dive. You roll that in with the first 3 scores in. 329.25 puts Iffland, the 3-time champion, into 1st with 2 competitors remaining. And look at that beautiful shot of El Nido and the leaderboard with Iffland on top and Richard in 2nd. Adi Jimenez drops to 3rd. Nastia Rava of Belarus and Jessica McCauley, the Brit, will run last. Look at that, Joey. I mean, you've dove in some crazy places over the time. Where does this rank?
And this is right up there, to be honest. Both for the off-the-cliff part of the competition and on the platform. Wow, talk about brave athletes.
Here's a brave athlete, drummer, skateboarder, action sports enthusiast, claims that the hot climate here is tough for her because of the much colder weather where she lives and trains in Belarus. We'll see how she does here. Nastia Rava delivers a nice one. Will that contend against Iffland?
She has been so consistent at this competition. Last year, she battled through injuries. She's a very tough athlete. Superb entry. Got it down. Almost nothing left behind. Twist at the beginning. There she's holding on, and she's really done a good job to calculate and got the timing just right. Maybe a few small deductions for the position in the middle. All round, not much to fault Trace Worthington.
A great dive by Nestierova. The 26-year-old knew the pressure she was under after watching the dive of Rhiannon Iffland, who's not easy to beat and stand on top and above on that prestigious podium. Will Nestierova get the score she needs by the 5-judge panel and win stop number 1? However, one competitor remains in Jessica McCauley, and Nestierova comes in with 319.35. Jessica McCauley, the Brit, top seed. Looking at Nestierova's scores, last dive, 95, 319.35, moves into second. So now Rhiannon Iffland, once again, is sitting in the hot seat right now. Could she win the series opener, or will it be Jessica McCauley, the Brit, the new permanent diver? Not sure if that's going to pull it off.
Whoa, she would need 8 from the judges to take the lead from Rhiannon Iffland, but the point is, this is a brand new dive. The first time we've ever seen a front quad somersault in the tuck position by a woman in the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series, but there's not going to be enough today to beat Rhiannon Iffland with those scores. Disappointing, but
it's not.
It is wonderful to see the sport progressing and to see these new dives at the very first stop in Philippines. Very proud of all of these athletes. I am so impressed that they managed to increase the level of execution and increase the level in terms of degree of difficulty. There's a running takeoff. 1, 2, 3, kicking out just at the right time. You can see she was a little hunched on entry, kicking up the splash, but a commendable performance. Jessica McCauley, be proud of yourself.
No question about it. No question about it. Great diving here in the Big Lagoon. 4 rounds of dives, and when you factor in the route to get to these platforms, Joey, in the small lagoon and now in the large lagoon, the boat ride out here, just a small island to kind of get prepared on a sandy beach, a lot to deal with, even though we are in paradise in El Nido. Jessica McCauley, 71.75. So low scores across the board will not put her on top of the podium. However, just off in 4th place with 304.55. That means Rhiannon Iffland, the 3-time Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series champion, will open the season with a victory. So what a great competition, Joey, and you see the Big Lagoon, the small lagoon, Rhiannon Iffland once again sitting on top and sending a message to the rest of the field that she's not going anywhere from that solid position of number 1 in the world. So Rhiannon Iffland wins gold. Yana Nestierova with a great result with a 2nd place. And Lisanne Richard, despite some of the challenges that she had yesterday, earns a bronze.
Wonderful performance from Lisanne Richard, and Rhiannon Iffland showing us once again that she's mentally strong. So she handled the conditions very well, very hot, a lot of climbing, a lot of energy required.
It's a great result. You see Ginger Huber right there in 6th. Ellie Smart rounds out the entire field. Nevertheless, 6 more stops after this for the women. Anything can happen as all the scores and all the grand totals are added up at the end of the season. So the series standings, obviously, with Rhiannon Iffland leads the way. It's 200 points for the win, 160 for 2nd, as you can see right there. Lisanne Richard earns 130 points for her bronze and 3rd place performance. Jessica McCauley, the top qualifier coming into that final round, just off the podium in 4th. All right, we're shifted over to the men now as we go up a little bit to the next platform higher than the women, as Rhiannon Iffland of Australia will celebrate. Well, let's check back and check, before the men, Rhiannon Iffland, Joey, what made the difference? I mean, we saw her 3 rounds yesterday, but really capping a victory at stop number 1 comes down to the last dive.
It all comes down to experience, execution, and the previous round, in round 3, she had very high degree of difficulty, so she was in a good position right there. But look at this rotation, that heavy feeling coming towards the platform, spinning in towards the platform, so it's called an inward triple half in diving terminology. Look at this. The legs extend out. She's looking at the water. Wonderful slow motion action. Everything just looks smooth. Everything looks easy. Years and years of experience in trampolining and diving. And she just knows where the water is. It's incredible.
What's that feel like? You've dove in places like this before in paradise. What's that feel like?
I mean, it's always a beautiful thing to dive in places like this, but the feeling and actually in the air, right at this very moment, as a matter of fact, you start to hear the wind pick up. You hear the wind whooshing past your ears, and that impact is so strong. But here, actually, it's quite interesting. The impact is quite soft. But speaking of Rhiannon Iffland, congratulations for another deserved win at the very first stop here in Philippines. What a powerhouse.
First of all, congratulations. We're in the Philippines. First stop. Amazing.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's so nice to be here, and this location is just amazing. I mean, what's not to love about island life? Just so stoked to be up there diving in a place like this.
And I mean, you started as a wild card and you've just come in strong and consistent. It looks like you're unstoppable.
I wouldn't say unstoppable, but yeah, I'm just enjoying the ride, that's for sure. Coming from a competitive 10-meter background, this is at a whole new level. I enjoy everything that comes with this sport, the travel, the people, the enjoyment, the adrenaline. So yeah, it's a perfect combination for me.
Is it worth me asking, what are your aims for this stop and for this season?
Yeah, this season, this stop was it was kind of just to come in and see where I'm at in terms of diving. It's always tricky, the first competition, because you don't know exactly where you're at. But obviously, yeah, just to get through the season consistently, uninjured, and to have a good time.
And I want to ask, last question, about the Philippines location, because previously we've only seen you diving off the cliffs in the Azores, but now we've got this new stop. How does it compare to the platform? And of course, when the public watch, we think of cliff diving off the cliffs, but from an athlete point of view, what's it like?
Yeah, look, it's a whole different feeling up on the cliffs, but I love it. I love to climb. I love to be in nature, and I love that little extra kick of adrenaline. So, comparing it to the platform is a little bit different, because obviously the platform's stable and we still have to do our difficult dives on the platform. So there's equally as much adrenaline in both spots.
Well, listen, thank you for speaking to me, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
All right, Caroline DeMarais giving us the interview from the hot spot, the dock where the divers get out of the water. As we shift over to the men, we are going 27 meters, 90 feet above the water. And like the women, the men had their shot yesterday, Joey, for the first 2 rounds off the narrow and raw limestone cliff face in the small lagoon. Bring us up to speed, buddy.
First off, Jonathan Paredes, round 1. And look at this dive. Superb execution, 2 10s from the judges. That says it all. He's got a lot of experience with athlete projects. So he dove in South Africa off the Victoria Waterfalls. He dove in Patagonia. He dove in Cabo San Lucas in Mexico. So he's accustomed to these situations. And I think this is why he's performed so well at this particular tour stop. Constantin Popovici with his intermediate dive from the round 1 location. And he is a former Olympic diver, dove in Beijing. And this year he plans on competing in the FINA World Championships in the discipline of diving and high diving. He doesn't have a lot of experience diving from the cliff, but he's managed it very well. Chris Kalana from Poland, this guy always seems to get off to a great start in the competitions. Exquisite execution. This is deeper into the second lagoon. And the athletes really need to make sure they push out a long way. Rough and rugged conditions. Gary Hunt showing how versatile he is with the front quad. Watch how far out he's pushing away from the platform. So versatility is the key in this sport, being able to adapt to all the different conditions. Super high. What a thrilling sport to watch, and what a picturesque backdrop for the world's greatest cliff divers.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So the small lagoon to the right-hand side, we move over to the big lagoon, about a 40-minute boat ride from the beaches of El Nido, depending on if you're a fast boat or a slow boat. Joey, Sergio Guzman will kick things off of the 14 men. That means he has the lowest score after 3 rounds of diving coming into this final round. Mikhail Navratil, always fun to watch, will run number 7. Andy Jones of the United States, 6. David Kulturi is back with us. We'll see what he has in store. He will dive number 8. Gary Hunt, the returning champion, will run number 12. Chris Kolonis, always delivering some great dives early in the rounds. And then, of course, Jonathan Paredes, the 2017 Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series champion, with those 2 10s yesterday, earned him that hot position of top seed, and he will dive last. As we head to the top now, 27 meters, 90 feet above the water for Sergio Guzman of Mexico. Now, the wild card diver has been working to get back into that permanent diver arena. Joey, a guy you know well. What is the story with this guy lately?
Well, this particular dive, he's had some troubles with it, had a bad landing in Bosnia. And so that memory always seems to plague him. He's got to block that out. He's got to focus. So once again, we're watching the 4th and final round about pushing yourself to the limits. So it's reverse quad somersault. So reverse means he'll face forward, jump up, and spin back towards the platform.
Right now, he throws down his chamois. That's his towel. So when he gets out, he can dry himself off so he can hike back up that staircase if he wants to. But the 4th and final round, he'll probably just chill out at the bottom. Kicking off the men's 4th and final round, the safety divers in the water, making sure everything is secure. Into the water, it is going to be an excellent competition for the men. A lot of guys pulling off some new degree of difficulty. Joey, we'll talk about that momentarily, as Guzman asks the safety divers to give him a little splash, get things going.
Putting them into the right position, so each athlete will prefer the scuba divers slightly further away or slightly closer, so directing the scuba traffic, so to speak.
There are the Brits, Blake Aldridge, Gary Hunt. We'll see them dive momentarily. Gary Hunt still diving so well. Here we go, Sergio Guzman in the big lagoon to kick off the men's 4th and final round.
Trying to dry his legs, so it's very important the athletes have grip on their shins. See how he's grabbing his shins, so he's going to jump up and go in the ball positions. You can see he's bothered by that, so there might be a bit of sweat. So you don't want to slip out in the middle of the dive. That's why the athletes have the chamois. They need to dry the legs. So it's very hot and sweaty here.
Yeah, air temperature 28 degrees Celsius, 82 degrees Fahrenheit, and humid. Here we go, Sergio Guzman of Mexico. A lot of flips and twists, and just pounds the landing. That's the way to kick off this 4th round.
Amazing effort. So much better than the practice rounds. Sergio Guzman showing us what cliff diving is all about. 4th and final round for the men. He looks incredibly happy. Do the judges like it? Yes, they do.
He's got to be psyched with this. I mean, to kick things off, when you are running first, Joey, that means you're coming in, you're the lowest seed, and you have to break out everything you possibly have, and also a clean landing.
That you do. I really like the fact that he put everything behind him and focused with the challenge ahead. Watch this big jump, head flicking back, counting the somersaults as they go by, held on right to the last moment, and he needed to do that because he was moving a long way from the platform, which makes the rotation quite slow. So I think Sergio Guzman, we call him the cat. Great air and awareness.
A former diving coach from Mexico City, a skilled salsa dancer with a big last round score of 112. However, some of the dismal rounds earlier put him still far behind. So Guzman comes in and will kick things off with a 262.50. Orlando Duque, look at that route he's taken to the top. Limestone rock, super sharp. Up these ladders, bamboo ladders, ropes, harnesses. I mean, these guys, Joey, have to be climbers in addition to cliff divers.
Yep, need a few climbing lessons before you enter the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series, but all part of the challenge, all part of the fun.
Duquesne's experienced at that. A lot of these guys aren't. He's been everywhere. As Guzman gives a lot of high fives to the rest of the crew, a lot of camaraderie. Set aside competition. All the competitors want to see each other safe and hit great dives. Nikita Fedotov of Russia. You like this guy, young, has great DD, degree of difficulty.
Very technical diver, beautiful form in the air. As a matter of fact, his first competition as a wild card was in Bosnia, where he took 3rd place, so we know he's capable of great things. Good physique, good line for diving. A bit of a slip up in the previous round. So this is an interesting dive. Nobody else is doing this. Back arm stand, 3.5 somersaults in the pike position. So he'll do an handstand, but starting off backwards. Would you dare to do it?
That is a great question, Joey.
I dare say no.
Maybe a big jackknife or cannonball somewhere off the rock that's like 10 feet off of the water. All right, here we go. Impressive dive here, as you mentioned, with the handstand. A lot of strength. Fedotov impressive on the platform and even more impressive on the entry. Jonathan Paredes on the right and Gary Hunt, they love it. They know how difficult that dive is.
Sensational stuff from Nikita Fedotov. I couldn't believe how long he was holding the handstand for. Prowess, physical ability, bravery, technique, skill, and psychology. And what a dive. Look at this.
Reminds me of a guy named Artem Silchenko.
Yeah, Russian School of Hard Knocks. Yeah. Look at this pike. Kicking out at the right time, bending at the waist to adjust for the landing. And he badly needed a dive like that.
Can you point out any mistakes in this, Joey?
Not too much. Beautiful pike position. Look at the toes. Everything is in line. Slightly hunched on entry, but I'm being very picky.
Right.
Hats off. Round of applause for Nikita Fedotov for this dive.
If you've just joined us, we are in the 4th and final round for the men. 4 rounds total. All the scores are rolled up and added together for the total. So Fedotov of Russia needed this and needed a big score. He got it, 120 on that last dive, but you add that together with the others, 306.05. We'll see if that holds, as many big names and many divers yet to drop here in El Nido. Alessandro De Rose gets set to go on the platform, 27 meters, 90 feet above the big lagoon. Only a very small select few of spectators in the lagoon, mostly staff, mostly Coast Guard. So watching it on the screen right here is the best way to check it out. As Alessandro De Rose, the wild card diver of Italy, didn't have a great season last year, and that put him back in that wild card position, Joey.
So he has to prove himself this year. So he's got the first 3 competitions of the season, and if he performs well, he'll get more tour stops. Now he's going to show off a brand new dive that he learned at a training camp in China several weeks ago. So that was great. He had a chance to test the dive out before trying it in the competition, visualizing the dive, trying to picture it perfectly in the mind beforehand. Very important. Helps the execution.
De Rose comes in a little bit short on that dive right there and continues, Joey, to have some challenges here at the season opener.
Unfortunate. With that particular dive, he's taken a pretty hard hit on his chest, and actually he was indicating in the water, he was saying, the dive before, I landed on my back. This dive, I landed on my chest. So he is certainly disappointed, but it is a shame because he's been working very hard in the pre-season. So he's physically incredibly strong, got a lot of muscle bulk in his body. to withstand the impact, and also from time to time you will take a few hard hits like this. So being physically strong will be very important to also last throughout the duration of the entire season. Just watch the angle on the water there. You can see the chest leading forward, landing short of vertical, taking a heavy hit. And that knocks the wind out of you, Trace Worthington.
The 3-second free fall, 85 kilometers per hour. That's 53 miles per hour. 10 G's of physical force dropping into the lagoon. And, you know, the height of that platform, Joey, 3 times the height of a traditional 10-meter platform, which you would see at an Olympic competition. Hence why they have to land feet first opposed to head first. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, our page, our Red Bull Cliff Diving page, for great videos and photos and all the details. And what's coming up next is we look at a beautiful shot of the South China Sea and the clear emerald waters. El Nido, about 45 islands and islets, and the Philippines has over 7,100 islands. And this being one of the most beautiful here for this Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series first stop. Here he is, the legend, the icon, Orlando Duque, 44 years old, still at it. Fell back as a wild card diver this year. No big deal. This guy's rock solid. So Duque comes in on that, Joey, a little bit in the air to the naked eye. Had some separations.
It did. There's a few errors in terms of form, but when we look at the replay, we'll look at the takeoff first of all. But Orlando Duque is one of the iconic figures, one of the legends in the cliff diving world. Been on the scene for 20 years now.
Yeah,
20 years of cliff diving experience.
This is his 64th career start on the series since 2009. And talk about all the places he's been and what he's put his body through, including here. I mean, you know, he's keeping up with the young guys. It's awesome.
You name it, he's done it. Even dove off icebergs in Antarctica. This is a reverse double somersault with 4 twists. And unfortunately, just skipping off the platform, not really jumping strong enough. So it's important to get enough height and elevation to maintain rotation for the end of the dive.
Competed in Colombia's Dancing with the Stars a couple times, so Duque moves into the lead with a grand total after 4 rounds of 309.60. So in the midst of the men's competition here, 4th and final round, stop number 1 of 7 on the series. And who's that? That's Gary Hunt making his way up. Spider-Man.
Spider-Man indeed. Acrobatic man. Acrobatic genius, as a matter of fact. There he is, taking his time. You've got to be very careful on the climb. You've got to concentrate. Don't slip up.
I mean, then you have to get up to the top and then pull off. You have to use all this strength just getting to the platform, and then really where you need the strength is leaving the platform.
Yeah, it's interesting. You've really got to get your heart rate low before the dive. So you need to get up there early enough so you can let the heart rate settle. And that way you can be calm, cool, and focused before the dive. So it's really important not to have the heart racing too much.
But there's no, there's no tent up there. There's no, there's no air conditioning. It's, it's not like a traditional diving event that you would go to at a gymnasium or a pool.
No, this is rock and roll. Okay, we've got to talk about this gentleman, Alexei Prigorov.
Prigorov.
From the Ukraine.
I know, you're trying to teach me how to say his name.
Prigorov.
No, I got it.
Alexei Prigorov.
One of the 2 new permanent divers on the 2019 series, and there's a reason why.
This is currently the world's hardest dive. Front 4 somersaults in the pike position, 2.5 twists.
Prigorov, that just happened, a little bit of a splash, but what an outstanding dive in the air. High degree of difficulty.
Talk about action-packed from start to finish. This man was actually 3rd place at the FINA High Diving World Cup last year in Abu Dhabi. And because of that, here he is as a permanent series diver. Now he's got massive degree of difficulty, but of course you have to get the execution right as well. But with time, with more experience, I believe he'll be able to hone this dive in, and hopefully he'll be able to get that nice clean rip entry. So an error on the end of the dive, when he gets it dialed in, he could be a force to be reckoned with. Look at the pike, twist in the middle, then he has to re-pike again at the end. I mean, the centrifugal force, the G forces that you feel in this dive is incredible. He said that this dive you have to work so hard.
Sure.
Every single part of the dive, you're thinking, you're working, you've got to get into each position quickly. Tough dive.
Olympic bronze medalist from Beijing 2018 in the 3-meter springboard synchro competition moves into second with 3:08.35. So Orlando Duque, the 44-year-old legendary diver who's been with this series since the beginning, remains the leader with 3:09.60. The colorful character of Andy Jones is up next as we look at the colorful El Nido right here in the Philippines. It is a beautiful location. The first time that we have been on Asian soil, Joey, since 2016. A spectacular place as Andy Jones, the 33-year-old who hasn't dove in quite some time, about 7 months. He's been working on a variety of movies as a stuntman. He works with James Cameron on Avatar, Captain Marvel, Avatar 2, which is coming out. Here we go, Andy Jones. He hasn't dove. Andy Jones looking like he dove 5 days ago in training.
Exactly. Andy Jones showing no signs of rust whatsoever. Like you said before, barely got any training sessions in before the competition, but he did admit once he got up on that 27-meter platform, he looked down and was like, whoa, I forgot how high this was. So when you've had a big break, it makes you all that much more nervous. So normally you'll see the divers performing quite well in the second and third stops in the series. Massive amount of power to get the dive moving in terms of rotational velocity. And Andy Jones, smooth as silk. This guy is an all-round athlete, great baseball player, great downhill skier, freestyle skier as well. So anything he does, he's great at. He just makes you jealous all the time. I hate those kind of guys. He's just good at everything.
He became a father to his baby girl, Kayla, in the fall of 2018 with his wife, Alina. Look at those big scores right there. He keeps a 9, a couple of 9s actually, 121 on that fourth dive, and 354.40 is his grand total when you add all 4 together. So Jones of the USA launches into the #1 spot, pushes Duque, the 44-year-old legend, into second, Prigorov of Ukraine in third. Great diving so far, Joey. I mean, what are your thoughts as we now have seen some early round diving this 2019 season?
Well, it's been a bit of a mixed bag, some hit and misses. And speaking of someone who can hit, Mikhail Navratil, he's won 2 Red Bull cliff diving competitions in the past. He's had the second highest number of starts in the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series.
He didn't win his first series. His first series victory came after 53 starts. Impressive. He keeps getting stronger.
Also a stuntman in Czech Republic, nursing a bit of a shoulder injury from a stunt injury. So now he needs to throw with maximum effort to complete all of the rotations and twists.
Navratil delivers a dive here in the 4th round.
Very smooth diving from Mikhail Navratil. A few errors at the end of the dive, but he's A-OK, giving the A-OK sign to the scuba divers in the water. So I'm just wondering in the future if Mikhail Navratil can do some more difficult dives. So here's the pike and the 2 twists in the middle, so a little slow in the twist. Just looked like he was running out of room at the end of the dive to complete all of the skills. Physically fit. Talk about ripped.
Yeah, I mean, that has to help.
It does.
Where does it really help in diving, Joey, in this particular style of diving? Is it core strength? Is it all, the full body? What is it?
Everything. Abdominal strength, being very quick and powerful, especially with the stomach muscles to get into those rotations quickly.
333.90 is the grand total for Mikhail Navratil. So the Czech will sit in second behind Andy Jones. Look at the beautiful, sharp limestone rocks surrounding the small and big lagoon here in El Nido. 100 species of corals, and 45 of which belong to the hard corals. I mean, it is a beautiful spot, and we talked about it earlier. It is fresh, it is clean. That water is so crisp and clear. It must be fun for these divers. Do you want to get out there and dive?
It does. When it's nice and warm, these are the perfect conditions for the athletes. Warm, sunny, and like we talked about before, the water here is warm and it makes it very soft in the salt water as well. So that's great for the impact on your body.
And it is great for this guy, David Coulthuri. He returns for the first time after a last August injury where he ruptured his spleen. It required surgery. And Joey, we thought probably wouldn't come back. He joined us in the commentary booth for a little while, did a great job, and then boom, he got back on that platform, got strong, physically fit. Now he's back in action.
One of the hardest working divers in the series.
Coulthuri, absolutely no splash on that one. Boom.
They call him the master of the twist, Andy Jones. The fellow American likes it. And David Coulthuri has to be happy with that particular dive. Last year, he was performing that kind of skill and a 10 from one of the judges. The head judge, Claudio Demiro. He liked the jump, he liked the twist and the technique. David Coulthuri, now that is what you need when you're coming back from an injury.
So tell me, what did Claudio see in this that the other judges did not?
The jump, the flight in the air, the entry, everything was pieced together very nice. So looking at the jump here, watch how he bends nice and deep, great elevation, super high. You can draw a line from the head to the toes in terms of the twist. Now there was a little bit of a hunch on entry, so some of the judges took a few deductions off, but David Coulthuri,
yeah.
Nice diving, nice diving.
Nails it. So Coulthuri of the United States will wait his score. So that 10 will get dropped, but he'll keep an 8.5 and 2 8s. Multiply that by the degree of difficulty. That 112 added together with the other 3. Coulthuri moves into the lead, 262.50. So David Coulthuri, 362.50. The leader, Andy Jones, fellow American and good friend, in second. Blake Aldridge now yet to drop for his 4th round. 52 event starts. This is number 53, 36 years old. And I spoke to him this morning, Joey, and he said, you know, he needs to bring some old dives back into the mix with the field and the roster of divers that are here, some of the young guys with that high degree of difficulty. And then he's going to have to actually, at his age, incorporate some new dives. That can't be easy.
No, it is not.
A decent entry by Aldridge. Will it be enough to overtake the lead of 262.50?
Blake Aldridge, the former Olympian, showing us his technique on the platform and the twist in the air are pretty clean. And as you said, he needs to step up his game, do more somersaults and perform more twists to keep up with the world's best. The likes of Constantin Popovici and Alexei Pigotov, Gary Hunt, pushing off the platform.
Now he needs a 110. He needs a 110 on this one. Do you think that's enough to get a 110 and pull into the lead? It isn't. 98.70 for the Brit. Blake Aldridge will be on the podium at the moment in 3rd. So the 2 Americans, Coulthuri and Jones, hold down the top spot as Popovici makes his way to the platform.
Got some great dives in store for us.
So David Coulthuri, 362.50 is the leader. Popovici, Steve LoBue, fellow American of Coulthuri and Jones coming up, and Gary Hunt. He is here, and he's diving well, and he is coming up shortly. But first, it's Constantin Popovici from Romania, 29 years old. You have Greg Louganis right there on the platform with him, the legendary Olympic medalist, making sure things are safe. He is our sport director.
Constantin Popovici debuted this dive last year in Italy. The only person in the world to perform this particular skill. Now, in order to take the lead, you must score 6s or greater from the judges. That is within his grasp. He's got huge degree of difficulty. 5.2.
He's going to need a full tank of gas in that difficulty tank if he wants to take over the lead. Wow, what strength. High degree of difficulty and absolutely crushing the landing. Popovici with a big dive under pressure. Will that do it?
So much power, so much control. He went to the Beijing Olympics in 2008 using that Olympic diving background and showing us that he's a force to be reckoned with in the cliff diving scene. The only person in the world, as I said before, performing this dive, cutting through the water, going down 4 meters deep. Look at the power.
Unreal.
Jumping from his hands off the platform. Constantin Popovici showing us exactly why he's a permanent series diver this year. Fantastic stuff. Wonderful.
Great diving in the FINA High Diving World Cup, secured his permanent invite to this 2019 series. That isn't easy. Only a select small handful of men and women get the invite. And look at that, a bunch of nines across the board, 140, and he moves into the lead and goes over the 400 mark, 409.40 for Constantin Popovici. He is the new leader.
Wow, this competition is really, really heating up. We've got some big names to come right now.
So Popovici with that 409, that is going to be tough to beat as Stephen LoBue gets ready to dive. Here in El Nido, Stephen LoBue almost had the King Kahekili Trophy wrapped up last season, nearly won it at the last stop. But as we talked about earlier, Joey, Gary Hunt just happened to be Gary Hunt that day at the last stop.
It was a bit of a shame for Steve LoBue, but nonetheless, he's a champion in our eyes. Okay, talk about pressure. Front 5 somersaults in the pike position, 5.1 degree of difficulty, must score 9s on this dive. He has to score 9s. He can get a few 8.5s, but he's got to get a majority 9s.
And he's got to get a total of 130.50. He's done that only one time before with a 135 in 2018.
Running takeoff. Steve LoBue set.
And LoBue comes in a bit short on that. A bit of disappointment on his teammate and friend's face, David Colturi. Not sure if that's going to cut it.
What a shame, because the dive he did in round 3 was absolutely outstanding. But unfortunately, coming up short on this particular dive. But this sport comes down to split-second judgments. Let's look at it. There's a running takeoff, throwing 1, 2 somersaults, 3 somersaults, 4 coming out at the end. And you can just see here that he does not complete the dive. You must be straight up and down, straight as an arrow through the water. And also that stops the splash coming up. So unfortunate for Steve LoBue, but it is the first tour stop, and I'm sure he can hone in his skills to improve the next tour stops to come.
Still a lot to go in this season. 7 total stops, this being the first of the 7 and a new location of the series. So everybody battling for that King Kahekili Trophy, trying to get a jump start and get some solid points early in this season. So LoBue right now will come in with 86 on that last dive. Disappointment, he knows it. He knows he could do better than that, and he will, as you mentioned, in the future, 365.60. Nevertheless, he moves into second. But how about Constantin Popovici's 409.40 as the top score?
And he's putting some pressure on Gary Hunt. Gary Hunt has to perform on this next dive. He cannot falter.
Gary Hunt's got to perform just getting to the platform.
Exactly. But he's got his signature dive coming up.
Look at that right there, Popovici, 409.40. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, even Gary Hunt has to be thinking that's tough to beat. LoBue with that last dive in second place. And only 3 remain. Gary Hunt, followed by Chris Kalanis, and then Jonathan Paredes.
He's got his signature dive coming up, the triple quad. Gary Hunt, in order to take the lead from Constantin Popovici. He's under pressure, must score 8 from the judges. He has to perform with this dive. Trace Worthington, can he do it?
Beautiful in the air, and there is Gary Hunt being Gary Hunt. Right there, absolutely stomps the entry. Will that do it? Will that take over Popovici, or will Popovici win his first ever Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series event?
Gary Hunt, what an absolute legend, proving to us that he knows how to handle the pressure. He's done this dive, I don't know how many times, but that experience really does show. I mean, he's a real gentleman, but he's so competitive. I think mentally, definitely the most strong athlete. Look at the technique. He's looking physically very strong. Been working hard with his coach, Tong Wei, back in France. Impeccable twist, impeccable timing.
Wow. The
7 times Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series champion off to a flying start here in the Philippines.
So will he win his 35th career victory, or will he hand it over to that man right there for his first ever Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series?
That is the question. That is the question. What do the judges think?
Constantin has a 409.40. I mean, regardless of the result, he's got to be psyched.
That he does. Fine performance.
But don't forget, Chris Kalanis and Jonathan Paredes are yet to come down. 137.80. Gary Hunt once again under pressure, pulls it off. 427, an absolute giant score for the 7-time Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series champion.
He was almost apologetic to Popovici.
Yeah.
He was always saying, I know you dive great, mate, but I'm sorry, I had to win here today.
427. I mean, that absolute giant score right there. So Gary Hunt with 2 remaining, the leader.
But let's not talk too soon. Let's not talk too soon. We've got Chris Kalanis here. Also, same dive as Steve LoBue, front 5 somersaults in the pike position. If he scores 9.5, don't get me wrong, it's a tall order. Trace Worthington, anything's possible.
I tell you what, he's always solid after the first 2 rounds. Then usually round 3, he's never in this position often. And now here he is with a chance to win stop number 1.
The advantage with Chris Kalanis is that he's got fantastic form and a beautiful pike position. So that puts him in a good position. And if he hits the entry and gets 9.5s, it's all his. And he has won a competition before, back in Texas last year.
Yeah, but then his results simmered down the rest of the season. Now it seems like early season 2019, it's picking up, Joey. Here we go. Under pressure, Kalanis has a bit of a splash on that one. Will the degree of difficulty pull him into that top spot?
I really admire all of these divers performing such skills, such dexterity, such aerial awareness.
Is that worth a 136.40? Because that is what he'll need to pull ahead of Gary Hunt.
Unfortunately not. It won't be enough with that particular entry. But looking at Chris Kalanis' dive, throwing forward. Look how he squeezes into that pike position. Actually, in dives like that, the arms almost want to release, so you need a lot of physical strength in the arms to make sure that you don't release too early. Big splash at the end of the dive. But still, he's done a great job here at the first stop of the season, 2019. Chris Kalanis from Poland. Incidentally, his girlfriend is also a cliff diver, Anna Bada. He's had a baby girl recently, so I'm sure they're watching the competition right now, supporting.
Look at baby boy, Maxime.
Maxime, that's right. Second child.
Yeah.
But today, it was Gary Hunt's day yet again, but Constantin Popovici taking his first ever podium. in a Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series competition.
So Popovici guaranteed a podium. Chris Kalanis with 89.25 will be in third, podium position at the moment. So Hunt guaranteed a spot, Popovici guaranteed, Kalanis now on the bubble, one competitor remaining in Jonathan Paredes. And I tell you what, the first couple days that we saw him dive in the small lagoon, it didn't look like he was slowing down a bit, and he looks like he's improving much better coming into the season.
That he is. He's been in fine form. So hopefully we didn't speak too soon yet again, but we've got front 4 somersaults in the pike position with 1.5 twist for Jonathan Paredes shortly. Beautiful sweeping shot of El Nido. Exciting stuff. One more diver to come.
Not far from Manila, about an hour flight south of Manila. It's a beautiful area, and you see on the right-hand side is the small lagoon where they dove yesterday, and then the big lagoon today. And as we talked about in the first 2 rounds in the small lagoon, Jonathan Paredes was absolutely on fire. And today, though, he has a lot of pressure. 427.25 is the score to beat, set by Gary Hunt, and he has been in this position before. You know, he and Gary going back and forth.
That he has. He's a man known for, as I said before, exquisite execution. Has the best line in the business, best rip entry. And he's got to get some big scores. 9s from the judges.
He's been diving at a variety of locations with Red Bull projects. Does that kind of help a little bit? You know, just not your traditional pool diving?
Definitely with
Joey?
the off-the-cliff rounds. Diving from waterfalls, diving from the cliffs in Mexico, diving in Patagonia in cold conditions. So I think that's made him a well-rounded cliff diving athlete, particularly for this kind of tour stop where you do have off-the-cliff dives. We have 2 platform dives. Jonathan Paredes guiding the scuba divers. Another running takeoff. You can see him marking out how much distance he requires to get to the end of the platform with his toes right on the very end. Okay, he needs some big scores from the judges. 9s. We're looking for 9s, people.
Gary Hunt in the lead, 427.25. Jonathan Paredes needs 124.95 to win stop number 1. Great in the air, Joey, as you've said before, but what about the entry? A little bit off. Will that do it? Will that put Paredes ahead of Gary Hunt and win stop number 1?
I believe not. Jonathan Paredes, I believe, has missed his chance there, but we still salute him for being one of the greatest cliff divers. And there's a big hug for Gary Hunt. So much has to go right. You've got split seconds to make those judgments, to make sure you line up for the entry. Easier said than done. 85 kilometers per hour upon impact, throwing the arms forward. The pike, twist in the middle, has to re-pike once again, using a lot of abdominal strength and an over-rotation, so passing the vertical line. Unfortunate for Jonathan Paredes. I'm also wondering whether he'll step up his game with another new dive, because there are many divers performing new skills this year.
Just absolutely beautiful in the air, Joey, but again, Gary Hunt's last dive just stomped that entry. 427.25. 5 judges looking at this very closely. Once again, the high and the low tossed out, the remaining 3 multiplied by the degree of difficulty. Did he have enough here for that?
And that's the game you have to play. Do I push it with degree of difficulty, or do I go for execution? So Jonathan Paredes there, scoring 7.5.
He knows it. So Jonathan Paredes, 3rd place, earns the bronze, 408.05. So an impressive first competition here in 2019 for Gary Hunt. And Constantin Popovici of Romania with the silver, sending a message saying he's ready to be that permanent diver, as Jonathan Paredes, a familiar position, not familiar position, but a familiar place, at least on the podium for today.
Yeah, good job to Jonathan Paredes, but great to see another new face, Constantin Popovici on the podium. And we're looking at Gary Hunt there, proving yet again he is the master.
How does he do it? After he's 34 years old and he still keeps getting it done.
So much experience. He's been doing this dive for a long time, so he understands the velocity. He understands how to dive in different conditions. He can dive in cold conditions, windy. But look at this. Here's the winning dive. Gary Hunt. Look at this slow motion action. Look at how much muscle strength is required. Moving his arms as fast as he can to get the elevation off the platform. Watch how one arm will drop, pulling across the chest here, and this starts the twist. He was the first person in the world to try this dive back in Turkey. And look at how the feet are overlapping. That's a little trick to stop the feet splitting apart. So if the feet split apart, the judges will deduct there. And you can draw that straight line. Look, you can draw a line from his head right through to his feet.
Are his eyes closed?
Let's have a look closely. Look, no, this is a good point. Yes, they are, which is quite unusual. Normally you should keep your eyes open, but he's using that feeling of gravity to orientate himself. Squeezing into the pike position at right about here, you start to feel the earth getting heavy. So you feel that heavy sensation in the head. And I just don't know how he does it, moving so quickly towards the water. I mean, it just comes up, especially from 27 meters trace, the water comes up so fast. It's actually a big difference from 24 or 25 meters. I couldn't believe how much of a difference it made going those extra 2 meters. But the discipline and the professionalism in the sport today is outstanding. Gary Hunt is in great diving shape, great physical shape, showing us why he's on the podium. And there's Lisanne Richard as well, so she made a great comeback after that neck injury yesterday.
So Gary Hunt makes it career number 35 wins on the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series, drops 27 meters, 90 feet into the water to yet win another one. And this, again, sending a message to the rest of the field. He's not going anywhere. He wants that 8th King Kakili Trophy title at the end of this 2019 season. Big props to Constantin Popovici with his 2nd place finish, and Jonathan Paredes on the podium yet again in 3rd. Blake Aldridge in 8th. You see 8th through 14 right there. It is still early in the season, as we mentioned. Gary Hunt earning 200 points for this opening win in 2019 from a beautiful place, El Nido, Palawan, and the Philippines. Spectacular location.
I'd have to say this is one of my favorite locations of all time, really.
So there you have it, Gary Hunt, 200 points right there. Constantin kicks off the season solid. Paredes in 3rd, and you see the list go on and on. Chris Kalanis, though, with that solid result in 4th place. And hats off and big props, just kind of everybody behind the scenes, right? I mean, just making this event happen was not easy, Joey Zuber. I mean, we've traveled up the athletes up ladders and bamboo staircases and everything to get to the top of the platforms. The entire crew doing a wonderful job here in El Nido.
Hey, Gary. So, congratulations. It seems like Gary's pulling a Gary once again.
After I saw Rhiannon take it, I said I've got to make this one for the champions, and I worked really hard over the off season. I fell in love with the sport again, and it's really an honor to be able to show my hard work today.
And you mentioned that Rhiannon spurred you on. I can see that when you're diving, when everyone's diving, there's a real sense of camaraderie. Do you feel that when you're up on the platform?
Up on the platform, it's you and the 27 meters. It's very difficult to think about anything else. But it's when you come back on the boat and there's a real sense of camaraderie, everyone's friends, that's when you really feel the sense of that it's a team thing.
And obviously you've done it. Is it worth me saying, I mean, you mentioned I fell in love with the sport again. What are your aims for this stop and the season?
I saw online somewhere that somebody said that I claimed I wanted to stay unbeaten this season, and that's not really my goal. I would love to stay consistent. The divers now have really tough dives, so I want to see good diving from everyone, and if that means I have to take a step back and see somebody else take the win, that's all good for that person.
And one last question. I mean, the Philippines, I asked Rhiannon the same thing. We're off the cliff, we're on the platform. When Joe Public thinks of cliff diving, this is what we think. How do you compare the two?
I mean, when a place like this, it feels like this is what cliff diving is all about, coming to the best locations in the world and performing really tough tricks. So I hope the crowd enjoyed it.
And lastly, someone told me that you were scared of heights. It does not look like you're scared of heights.
As long as there's water underneath, I'm fine, but put me on the edge of a balcony and I'm not a happy chappy.
Oh, listen, you're happy today. Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you very much.
All right, and this dive is absolutely spectacular. Thanks, Caroline. I mean, break it down for us once again, Joey. I mean, what separates Gary Hunt from the rest of the field when it really comes down to it? A lot of guys have great form. You have a lot of good entries into the water. High degree of difficulty. What is the difference with Gary Hunt and the rest of the guys?
I think, first of all, he came from a really good technical diving background, so he almost made the Olympics, but he wasn't very good at landing head first, as a matter of fact, so he's always splashing lots. So he had great technical ability, and he's always known for his wonderful twist in the sport of diving, but cliff diving was his thing, so he found that way to get those really clean entries. But I think mentally, he's so strong.
Mentally.
But he's just quiet. He's a very quiet guy. So he sits down, quietly thinks, okay, what's possible? How do I approach this dive? So a very understated diver. I mean, if you look at him on the street, a very unassuming person, you know, but inside, his mind is always ticking, always thinking about how he wants to do this dive, but also versatility. So he talks about how he's gone back to competing in 10-meter diving, so making sure that he's got a complete repertoire of dives. And so if he has to change his diving competition due to bad weather, he's one of those divers who can say, do you know what? I can change my dive. So if you stick to your comfort zone, doing the same dives all the time, then you run the risk when you come to a situation where you have adverse situations, high wind or cold. But Gary Hunt
gets it done in paradise.
Yeah, has a great big bag of tricks. And he can perform difficult dives from off the rock. I mean, you name it, he can do it. So what a diver. He's the complete package. We've got the women's winning dive here. Rhiannon Iffland. Sensational stuff. The Australian sensation. Inward triple half in the tuck position. Squeezing into that ball shape. So when I say tuck, that means the ball shape there. And she's just so consistent. So I believe she's only ever missed the podium twice.
Right, I know, it's
crazy.
crazy.
The podium twice.
And, you know, as she came on as a wild card diver and really kind of jumped out and stood up at Texas Stop a few years ago and really made a statement there. And sometimes some of the wild card divers slow down a bit. You don't hear much of them again, and then they win a few years later, but she just kept the pace going time and time again. Incredible diver.
Yeah, she kept winning. She started off the season 2016 as a wild card, and she was diving so well. We're like, okay, we have to keep giving you more stops, and went on to win the Women's World Series, and she's done it back-to-back, so it's no fluke. Rhiannon Iffland, what an athlete.
Just a short boat ride from El Nido, a beautiful location, and again, just huge props to the entire crew behind the scenes that made this happen. When you look at the building process and the things that went into this, Joey,
and all the riggers,
spectacular.
Yeah, all the climbing team, you know, did a great job supporting the athletes.
And look at that, prize giving on a boat. Fittingly, right there, Lisanne Richard earning third place. A great way to kick off this 2019 season. Had some issues yesterday, didn't know if she was going to compete. She got through that, woke up this morning and said, I want to dive. I want to get things done. I want to start the season off strong, and I want some points to get rolling. I want that King Kakili trophy. That's what it comes right down to.
Yana Nestyava from Belarus. The dark horse taking second position. She's had a fantastic competition. She did not miss a beat every single dive she did. She nailed the entry. So I think it's a well-deserved second place for Yana Nestyava. But the woman of the hour is yet to come.
A very, very familiar position for Rhiannon Iffland, standing on top of the podium today. The season opener champion here in El Nido, Palawan, Philippines, Rhiannon Iffland. A solid performance and continues her winning streak.
The driving force in the women's field. So who can push her? So that's why we're seeing these new dives from Jessica McCauley, the front quad somersault. So they want to step up the degree of difficulty to see if they can push Rhiannon Iffland. What a great depth of field we've got now in the Women's World Series. Every year improving the skill, the degree of difficulty. Jonathan Paredes in third position.
Couple 10s yesterday in the small lagoon. Impressive diving, impressive opener.
It's a nice little trophy to take home with you.
It's a great little trophy, yeah.
Easy to take home with you.
You don't want a big trophy because you kind of get dinged on the airline for that. You know what I mean? So you want to keep it light coming off this like dirt airstrip that we have here. So keep it light, guys. Popovici, what an outstanding day. This must give that guy some confidence here.
That it does.
With the silver.
And I believe he will step up his game. He wants to try a new dive during the season. But here is Gary Hunt, the 7-time Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series champion, trying to make it 8.
Just keeps getting stronger. Win number 35 for the Brit. Now has French citizenship.
That is right.
Yeah.
So resides in Paris. And so he's currently competing in Paris in 10-meter competitions. There we have it. Gary Hunt in first position. Constantin Popovici from Romania. Jonathan Paredes from Mexico. A familiar place on the podium.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for the prize giving. Congratulations, Rhiannon Iffland, Gary Hunt, and the rest of the divers who made the podium today here at the first stop. Now there's 7 or 6 more to go, so we go from this stop to the warmest and remotest to the chilliest and most northern stop of the year. The second competition takes cliff diving's elite back to Ireland. Dunleary, in fact, located about 12 meters to the south of Dublin city centre, an iconic seaside town with over 200 years of history. The platforms actually will be located on the Carlisle Pier, where divers will have a panoramic view over the Dublin Bay and the entire Dunleary vicinity. Although the World Series has been to Ireland in the past, this is the first time that Dublin will host the world's most prestigious diving competition off the cliff. And the action goes down on Sunday, May 12th. Check out redbullcliffdiving.com for all the goods and the details. That should be fun, Joey. So congratulations. Yeah. So congratulations once again to the athletes here at the first stop, a very challenging but fun location in Paradise. And that's how to kick off the season right there. Job well done by all the divers and our entire crew behind the scenes. We hope to see you again from Dunleary, Ireland, Dublin on May 12th for stop number 2. Until then, I'm Trace Worthington on behalf of Caroline DeMoraes and Joey Zuber saying thank you for watching the 2019 Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series from El Nido, Palawan Island, and the Philippines. So long, everybody.